And that was the outcome from the FEC meeting yesterday. Now let's move on to our first conversation of the day. The Securities and Exchange Commission and the Standards Organization of Nigeria are intensifying collaboration on the commodities trading ecosystem with the hosting of Commodities Standards Sensitization Workshop. Both parties believe the partnership would help foster the development of a grading and standardization system in line with international best practices. Well, let's hear more now from Ms. Daisy Ekene, Chairman of the Commodities Trading Ecosystem Implementation Committee. Great to have you on the program. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Well, before now, can you paint a picture of what the commodity standards was before and why it's necessary to have a stakeholder engagement on commodity standards?
Okay, before I go into the standards, let me just give you a background. In 2015, the SEC actually released a master plan for the capital market, and it was a 10-year capital market master plan. One of the key recommendations there was that there should be, the commodities ecosystem should be developed. You know, it's very important because we're actually moving out. We all know that we're moving out of oil, and we just have commodities to expand and to develop, you know, to help us in our new journey, basically. And so the SEC set up a committee, you know, that looked at the commodities ecosystem in totality, you know, and then came up with a report and then recommendations. SEC then went ahead and set up a committee for implementation. One of the key aspects, you know, when we were looking at the commodities ecosystem was the issue of standards. You know, we've had an issue. We have Standards Organization of Nigeria, and they come up with standards, you know, that are applicable in the country. And basically, you know, they are the standard setters in Nigeria for commodities. But even that notwithstanding, with the standards they have, we're still having problems with standards generally. So we export our commodities abroad, and they are rejected. We even understand, you know, at the meeting that, you know, about last year we had about 47 rejects. That's Nigerian commodities that were rejected when they were exported. So it's very important to have those standards. We then felt that, look, we needed to engage SON because some of their standards are also, you know, were issued about 20 years ago. And that then means that they are probably a bit outdated, you know, and they needed to review them. So we decided to bring in all stakeholders, including the SON and, you know, farmer group, the various government agencies that are responsible, and other stakeholders to look at the standards generally. So basically what happened was that we looked at each of the standards to see whether they are up to date. And where they were not up to date, you know, the SON had taken back comments from stakeholders, and they will update the standards, reissue them, you know, have another stakeholder meeting, obviously, so that there's an agreement, and then it becomes effective. But it's not just having the standards that is the issue. If you've got standards that are not actually being complied with, it's as good as not having those standards. So there has to be an enforcement. We have to make sure, because what standards do is that they bring assurance, you know, to the users of the standard. So when I pick a commodity that you say is of a particular grade, I know that what it is what you said it is what it is. And so it gives me confidence to participate, and then, you know, it would help our export commodities and even help our, you know, processors in Nigeria, you know, the manufacturers, so they know that when they are picking up commodities and you say that it's of a particular standard, that's exactly what it is. So that's the essence of the stakeholder engagement that we had, you know, with SON. So it's still a work in progress. We haven't finished. We're going to have, we continually engage them and ensure that, you know, we fine-tune all areas, particularly the enforcement aspect of it, so that we don't start getting so many rejects when we, you know, export our commodities out of Nigeria.
The members of the Commodities Trading Ecosystem Implementation Committee, who are those, you know, at the helms of affairs there?
Okay, it's actually an interagency committee plus the private sector. So you've got the central bank, you've got NISRA, you've got SON, you've got Nexim, then you've got Bank of Agriculture, you've got the commodities exchanges. We have about 5 of them. At the time when we started, there were just 3. And so, you know, with the work that the commodities ecosystem was doing, I think that became, made the commodities side a little bit more interesting, you know, to various stakeholders. And since then, we've had more commodities exchanges registered by the SEC. So there are about 5 commodities exchanges now. And then we had the securities exchanges as well. So you're talking about the NGX, you're talking about FMDQ, so they were part of the committee. They are still part of the committee. So it's actually cut across both the private and public sector.
Okay, but what is the relevance of these commodity standards to the commodity trading ecosystem and the economy at large?
Okay. Look, when you're buying a particular commodity, you want to be sure, like I said before, you want to be sure that what people say it is exactly what it says it is. And, commodities must have standards and they must be graded. Standards in the sense that, I want to be assured that what I'm buying is what I'm buying, and if you say that it's of a particular standard and it's not of that standard, what that does to me is that it dents my confidence. And I would probably not trust whatever, the commodity, whatever you present before me. So what that does is that it gives quality and it gives assurance to users of the commodity. And in that wise, it also encourages participation. It promotes confidence. And people who then buy the commodity are sure that what they are buying is what they get. What they get is exactly what they're buying. So it's important. And that helps the economy, particularly the export trade. And local manufacturers and all that. So when they are buying commodities, they are sure, for their inputs, they are sure that what they are getting is exactly what the people say that it is. So that's why it's important. And let me say one thing. Commodities exchanges play a very vital role in standardization and grading, and that's one of the interests of the capital market. Because when commodities are traded on the exchanges, they are graded and they are standardized, and they ensure that what the grading is exactly what is delivered. What grade anybody buys is exactly what is delivered on the day of delivery. So the exchanges play a very critical role in ensuring that there are standards in the commodities ecosystem generally.
Well, I know, commodities can be quite tricky. How do you really determine, quality and value of commodities?
Okay, in terms of quality, there are people who actually look out for those quality. For instance, the exchanges and those who set the standard, they will look at moisture, they will look at foreign content. There are so many things that they look at. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an expert in that area. But right. I know that for those who are experts in that areas, they know what to look out for, to grade them. So they look at a whole gamut of things, in a particular commodity to determine whether it's maybe the moisture content shouldn't be more than 1% or whatever. So they look at various, the foreign elements shouldn't be. They even look at the colors, look at various things, and then they come up to start grading them and say that, look, if this has less of this, then it is a grade 1. If this has, less of that, in more of this, it is a grade 2. So that's left for the scientists. I'm sure they know exactly what they do when they are grading and standardizing them.
What about value?
Okay, value. Of course, if you've got a higher, if you've got a good quality, it helps value. And that's why the exchanges, when you talk about the exchanges, they bring price transparency. They bring quality as well. And so even quantity. So, for instance, a manufacturer can say that, look, I need certain commodities 9 months from today, and I can lock in the quality today, I can lock in the price today, I can lock in the quantity today. And because I'm sure that the quality I'm going to get today, I've locked in today, is exactly what I'm going to get tomorrow. It helps in terms of the value that, anybody gets, they get from it. So it provides that value too, because if I know that I pick up commodities from the exchange, I'm a trader, I pick up commodities from the exchange, and I know that what grade they say it is what it is. Obviously, it increases my confidence in the exchange, and obviously that also helps the value. It helps the confidence and, helps participation and helps the economy generally.
And do you see, investor participation actually improving after this stakeholder meeting?
I think since we actually started, we have actually seen investor interest growing slowly. And obviously after this participation, we expect that, when people are more confident with the standards, would get more people participating. But standard is just one aspect of the building blocks. There are so many other building blocks, around the commodities ecosystem. And, we're not looking only at standards. This one is just one aspect of it. We're looking at all other aspects, that affect the building blocks for the development of the commodities trading ecosystem. So it's a whole gamut of, things to look at, and we're doing that. And we have the support, of various stakeholders in doing that.
Right. So, now there's been the stakeholder engagement with the workshop. What are the next steps?
Okay, we'll continue to do engagement. We're going to have another one in Kano next week because, Kano is a very major area too for the northern part of the country. So we're going to engage other stakeholders, including basically farmers there, And then S1 is also going to be there and would expose all the standards that were exposed in Lagos at the Lagos event. And we also receive feedbacks, from participants at the Kano end. And then from that, they will go back, do their collation, improve on the standards, go through the processes of reviewing the standards, and then issue new standards. If the standards are meant, if they need new standards. There are actually some that, stakeholders felt did not need to be changed, and that the standards are still, effective, they're still good. But for those that they felt that we need they need some reviews, they told the SON exactly what should be done. Areas that they felt that the reviews should be done. So, we'll do the Kano one, we collate, then SON would, move on with ensuring that, they are, all the comments that are received, are put inside the new standards, and then they can issue that. They have their ways of actually doing that, so they will do that.
Okay, looking at this trading, commodities trading ecosystem, how does technology play into all of this?
Okay, technology is very key to the development of the commodities side. We know that now. In those days, farmers go to the market with their hoes and all that. These days, there are a lot of things that are done by technology. Even getting in touch with, even in terms of sprinkling, using, instead of carrying buckets and our parents used to do in the farm, pour water on the crops. Now technology does it for you. So technology does quite a whole lot in the area of the ecosystem. And so there are so many technology groups that are doing that. And we are also encouraging it. And even using mobile phones, getting in touch with the extension workers. The extension workers who have been trained in the area of technology and all that. Although, unfortunately, we got to know that we don't have enough extension workers in Nigeria. So technology is actually being used. And we can't run away from technology in the area of the ecosystem generally. And let me just say something about the commodities ecosystem. It's not only about just the standards. The ecosystem is very wide. For instance, the commodities value chain is very, very wide. You're talking about from farm to table. And look at the chain. You're talking about logistics. You're talking about input supplies. You're talking about, warehouses. So the ecosystem is very, very wide. And in all of it, you need technology, to assist, to make it more efficient, to make it more effective, and to bring the value that is needed, in the ecosystem as a whole.
Okay, but how do you think we can, further promote the widespread adoption, of commodity standards practice? Okay,
how we can do that is to ensure that we keep engaging all the stakeholders. For instance, the farmers. So we've got to educate them about best practices. One of the problems we have in Nigeria is, too much pesticides in our Greek products. And so when they're shipped out of the country, they get rejected. So how do we train, the farmers, so that they don't, laden the commodities with a lot of pesticide and, what they shouldn't laden them with. So education is very, very important. And we've actually started the engagement about education. And one of the ways of doing it is actually going to the cooperatives. And so we're encouraging farmer cooperatives, and with a lot of stakeholders. There are the exchanges have a lot of cooperatives already, that they are monitoring, and some of them have even set up. So through the cooperatives, the farmers can then be educated. Extension workers can also help to do that. So a lot of what we need actually is to educate and let people know, the implication of some of the practices, that they carry on now. And then, how to introduce better practices, which will benefit them better and benefit the economy as a whole.
Okay. Anyway, we'll keep tracking that space to see how everything pans out. That was Ms. Daisy Ekine, Chairman, Commodities Trading Ecosystem Implementation Committee. Thank you for coming on Business Morning.
And thank you so much for having me.
All right. After the break, it's still Commodities with Financial Derivatives Company. That's at the moment. Do stay with us.